So welcome everybody, a very, very warm welcome from me and Zoe to all of you. This is our session with you today, which is talking to you about working with emotions in coaching, which is our real area of passion and focus, and what has enabled us to create such a successful coaching business. There we are, we're sharing now. So not only thank you for joining us today, but thank you also for joining across these 3 days of the Coaching Summit. And I've seen many of you join the other coaching sessions as well. And we hope that you've got real value and enjoyment and maybe made new connections through those sessions, as well as stimulating new ideas. So our promise to you today is that we are going to take you through an introduction to working with emotions in coaching from our perspective. We'll give you an overview of what we've identified as the 6 principles of emotions coaching, and that form the foundation of our emotions coaching practitioner training program that we are launching for the first time this week. We're also going to touch upon the ethics of emotions coaching, because we know that that is fundamental to us being ethical coaching practitioners, and also is part of what sometimes creates fear in coaches for doing the deeper emotional work with our clients. And then we will give you an overview of what the emotions coaching practitioner training is, and how you might book on it, and what the dates are for that very first program if you want to be one of the world's first trained in that accredited coaching program. So hope you enjoy the session today.
And before we just get into the meat of the session, we know that many of you here have supported us in both our book and in our podcast, and we would just want to say a huge thank you and our deep appreciation for enabling our book to become a bestseller and for our podcast to become a #1. We know there are people here that listen every single week, and we are truly grateful for every single one of you. So thank you for that. And also, if you joined us via YouTube, and we know some people find us that way, thank you for being one of our subscribers. This is one of our sort of growing platforms, and we know that many of you will be heading over there to watch the replays later. So thank you for supporting us over there as well.
So we invite you to turn off all of your distractions, maybe apart from your fan, as we are still in the middle of the hottest period we've ever had in this country. This is time for you and for all of us to connect together. So for those of you that aren't familiar with Zoe and I, we just thought we'd take you through a whistle-stop tour of who we are and what we do. So our story is that we actually met about 20 years ago when we were doing a master's degree in HR, but we founded our business in good company in 2011. And we also are, as Zoe mentioned, the founders of the Coaching Crowd brand, and all that sits underneath that. We began teaching accredited coaching qualifications in 2015, and our coaching qualifications at the level 3, 5 and 7 are accredited with the Institute of Leadership and Management, and are also accredited with the European Mentoring and Coaching Council up to senior practitioner level, and also with CCEs with the International Coach Federation. We are really grateful to have been nominated for a number of awards for our business and also our coaching programs, and as individual coaches ourselves. And a couple of years ago, I was fortunate to win one of those awards, the EMCC Best Coach Practitioner Award. And Zoe and I also, as I say, are executive coaches in our own rights, and you can see there are individual websites for our executive coaching practices.
So we wanted to start today, as this is about emotions and working with emotions in coaching, by checking in with how you're arriving today using this metaphor. So take a moment to take a look at these, what we call jelly babies, and drop into the chat for us which jelly baby represents how you're arriving today. And Jo, why don't you kick us off and share with us which one you are?
I think I am. Well, I think I was going to say 11, because I'm feeling like open to the experience today and happy to be here. But then I saw that number 15 and thought, actually, that's me and you.
Thanks.
That is, mutual support, contentment, satisfaction, pride,
Great.
And which one are you, Zoe?
I was actually drawn to number 10, a feeling of kind of playfulness and I was going to say like relaxed, but I mean, I'm not very relaxed on a live webinar, 65 people, but I have that kind of post-summit kind of playful glow because it's just been a really fun few days. And I can see lots in the chat. So we have got with us, oh my Lord, right, lots, 18, 15, 11, 10, 17, 8, 10, 10, 10, 10, 3, 15, a 10, a 9. So a really interesting spread of people. And Vicky, so 15, loving the collaboration over the last few weeks up to and including the summit. Yeah, which is fantastic. So we also invite you then, now that you've kind of connected with that as a metaphor, to share with us, what does that represent for you? So in terms of the feeling, how have you arrived feeling? So we can see your jelly baby. What does that represent for you?
Yeah, Michelle has already put 10. I'm in a playful, joyful mood today. And Diana said number 17, much positive energy going on today.
Yeah, I can see, oh gosh, it comes thick and fast, playful and freedom, open and excited, inspired and energized, growing in confidence, positive and connected, curious, another curious, free-spirited and energized, relaxed and free, open and excited to learn. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing all of that. So it feels like we've got a really, positive energy in the room, ready to dive in, and let's learn together.
Yeah. So we're going, as Zoe said, we're going to start to move in now that you've arrived and connected with how you're feeling into an introduction to working with emotions in coaching conversations.
So let's start at the beginning, where all coaching is essentially about emotions. So however your clients arrive to your coaching sessions with their goals, and here's some examples. So perhaps your client wants to work on their career direction, or they want to prepare for an upcoming CEO role, or they want to learn to effectively lead their team, or perhaps address their work-life balance. These are common goals that certainly our clients arrive to our coaching with, and I'm sure many of you will be familiar with as well. And there are always emotions that sit behind the surface of any goal. And so here's just some examples. That why might a client want to work on their career direction? Why might that be important to them in the here and now? Perhaps it's because that client is experiencing some confusion. Perhaps they're experiencing some fear around what the future might hold for them. Or maybe they're feeling, curious and excited to learn more. There's always emotions that are there. With the CEO role, they might be feeling excited. They might also be feeling nervous, and there may be a conflict of emotions there. Perhaps they're experiencing some self-doubt and they want to move to a place of feeling confident and ready. Or for the client who wants to effectively lead their team, perhaps they fear conflict and they compare themselves to other leaders, or perhaps they want to feel more confident and in control of the experience they have with their team. And lastly, that client that wants to address their work-life balance. Well, why might that be important? It might be because they feel guilty, whether they're in work or out of work, they feel guilty about the amount of time they're investing in their career. But it might come from a place of desiring more joy and fulfillment from a values-led life. So you can see from this perspective, whatever the goals your client brings to coaching, there are always emotions associated with client goals and outcomes.
And a lot of you are probably familiar with the work of Daniel Goleman around emotions, and it aligns to the way that Zoe and I look at this too. So he says, by teaching people to tune into their emotions with intelligence and to expand their circles of caring, we can transform organizations from the inside out and make a positive difference in our world. And it aligns to mine and Zoe's view around emotions, because our mission is very much around helping people with the everyday mental health and developing and supporting and nurturing people and leaders to become more courageous and compassionate. And that requires them to increase their self-awareness around their emotions, to develop their individual relationship with their emotions. And so as we train people in these areas, it's about exploring what that means and equipping coaches with the tools and techniques to be able to do that confidently. And that really leads to accelerated and deeper transformation through a greater connection to their emotions. It enables them to achieve a degree of emotional freedom, empowerment when it comes to their relationship with their emotions, and further ignites the individual's inner coach around these areas. It brings them increased resilience from an emotional perspective. And obviously, the more that they learn about their relationship with their emotions, the more they're able to create a positive ripple effect in the world. And it helps them to increase their confidence in the actions that they're taking and create that alignment between their emotional experience and, the success that they have in their lives. So they don't have, that traditional experience of being seen as successful, but actually from an inner perspective, feeling deeply empty or emotionally void.
You might be familiar working with clients who when you come up against resistance. And our theory around when a client is resistant in a coaching relationship, it can often be because they fear the emotions that they'll engage with if they respond. Now, that might be to a specific question that you ask as the coach. It might be that they're experiencing resistance to their own coaching outcomes and goals, or certainly the challenge that you might place upon. And so for coaches, we need to be really skilled in being able to identify resistance, notice it, and support clients in moving through what is behind the resistance that we experience. And that also brings us into looping. And another thing that you might see within your clients is where they get stuck in a particular story or in a particular emotional block. So that might be the client who, let's take the work-life balance example. They may feel guilty for overworking and working what they perceive to be too hard, but then when they shut the laptop at a reasonable time, they might feel guilty because they're not working. And so they're looping around this emotion of guilt. And as the coach, we can often feel, I think, de-skilled and lost at knowing how to support our clients when they are stuck in these familiar patterns and stories. So deepening our appreciation of emotions work and the tools and techniques that we can bring to help clients with that can help us to feel more confident as coaches, and obviously deepen the transformations that our clients experience as well.
And what we know in our experience of training coaches is that a lot of people have a fear of doing the deeper work. So they're concerned about triggering or re-triggering a coachee's trauma, if that's something that exists in their story or experience of life. And as coaches, we can sometimes worry about doing harm. So we have that ethical lens of do no harm, but we're perhaps a bit unsure about the risks that, the perceived risks. You might feel as a coach that you are unable to handle what the coachees choose to bring. So you might have a desire to expand the container, and the coachee might want to do this work, but you might feel de-skilled around it. And you might feel worried about knowing what to say or handle any disclosures that might come up as you explore some more of the emotional aspects or blockers that they might have. And also, I think we can worry about, are we doing the right thing in the eyes of whichever professional body it is that we are subscribed to in terms of that, code of ethics that we have? And so we will be covering all of those things in the course that we do, and equipping you to have the confidence to work ethically and with competence as a coach working with emotions.
Because the truth is that there is no clear boundary between coaching and therapy, as much as we might like there to be, and as much as we may be looking for one. We have only our coach judgment and the education that we provide ourselves with to make those decisions for ourselves. So there is no big brother of coaching that's going to come and tap us on the shoulder and tell us off when we've done something wrong. So we have to be able to manage that boundary for ourselves based on our own competence and on the work that our clients want to do with us.
And another truth is that your fears around this work as a coach point directly to what is unresolved within you. So we know as coaches, one of those core competencies is self-awareness. And so as you train in this area, it is likely that you are going to be doing some self-work, obviously, around what comes up for you, because you'll always experience these activities yourself, you know, whilst you're also learning how to facilitate them with others.
And another truth is that if you want to be able to hold that safe and open space for your coachees to learn from their emotional experiences, both the good and the bad, and we don't like to think about emotions as good or bad, but from our clients' perspective, those helpful and unhelpful experiences, then you need to be prepared to learn from yours too. So it's coming and equipping yourself with deeper emotions skills in coaching will help you to really broaden your own emotional experience and to learn from those as well.
So let's talk a bit more about what actually is coaching with emotions. So the word emotion itself is derived from a Latin word, emovere, which is about moving. So moving out or moving through. So, you know, emotion as the word has that motion element to it. And really emotions are energy and they desire to move. But sometimes clients get stuck in a particular emotion.
Yeah, and when we think about emotions coaching, we think that all effective and integrative coaching is coaching with emotions. So often emotions is like the missing piece to your coaching portfolio. And when you work with emotions, it's fully inviting and supporting your coachee to explore and align their emotions to their thoughts, to their goals, to their actions, because that is what can create that wholehearted change. And I think it's also about what happens in relationships. So a lot of coaching isn't actually about the tools and techniques. It's about what you model through being in relationship and through being able to invite your client to fully access their adult grounded self and think in the present. And when we are able to create that safety, that's where emotion work takes place, just in the relationship that you have with your clients.
So we believe that being able to work with emotions at depth in coaching is a core coaching competency, and it's important that we develop the confidence and the competence to inquire into our coachees' emotional state. That's where it is the catalyst for that deeper transformational work. And so as Zoe talked about it being a missing piece, we also see emotions as the glue of the transformational work that we do as coaches.
We also like to think about emotional intimacy in coaching relationships. And the way that we see this is emotional intimacy is a core competency of coaching. It's that ability to be courageous as coaches, to be present as coaches and compassionate towards our coachees, whilst also inviting and enabling our clients to experience that for themselves. And emotional intimacy is that piece between emotional honesty and vulnerability that we support our clients to engage in through the coaching process in relation to the whole range of emotions that they might associate with their goals. So helping them to really step into things like gratitude and positivity and excitement and fulfillment, as well as recognizing where there might be fear and resistance and change that can hold them back. So that emotional intimacy requires, awareness and identification of emotions in our clients, and being able to support our clients to identify and become aware of the full range of their experiences through the coaching experience.
We're often asked, what makes us different as coaches or as coach trainers? And it really is this focus around emotions that we think is the point of difference that we offer. We believe that people are often afraid to engage in an emotionally intimate relationship with themselves, with other people, and fear is often at the heart of what holds that back. And so in developing the skills to be able to do this, it can also become a point of difference for you as coaches. And it requires you as a coach to use your whole self as that coaching tool, which we're so often asked to do, but to what extent are we really fully able to engage with that? And it also requires us to ask questions about our coachees' emotions with warmth and courage and in a safe environment. So we're curious. How do you currently work with emotions in your coaching practice?
Yeah, share with us some of your thoughts and reflections so far in the chat. A nice deep question for I've forgotten what day it is now, Wednesday afternoon. Here we go. So Jo's just training, but has realized that she enjoys working with emotions and exploring the feeling behind the answers. Yeah, I think it's often that point of discovery, isn't it? That when you have the courage to step in and ask about emotions, you're amazed at what can come through when your clients open up and share with you. What else have we got?
Lots.
Yeah, they're coming fast now. Helen, she does ask clients how they're feeling at different times and helps them explore why and what's behind it. Great. Max, I've triggered emotions in the coachee through questioning what is important to them. Yeah, you often find that like coachees can often be surprised by their emotional response, that they don't expect to get emotional at some of the questions that you ask. And that can be in itself a real point of transformation. Victoria's not a coach yet, but as a manager, she's happy to listen to emotions and allow them space, but do not tend to probe, keen to learn more. Yeah. Ian embraces them as they have influence on both how the coachee and coach interact. Yeah, so lots of comments there. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay. So let's talk a bit then about where emotions work fits into coaching conversations. And I can see you've all kind of got a taste for it, but, ultimately it's everywhere, isn't it? Coaching with emotions is in all parts of the coaching conversation. So, and why is it in all parts of the coaching conversation? Well, it's because we know that our behaviours are driven by our thoughts and our emotions. So how can we change a disempowered behaviour if we don't first identify and manage the root of the behaviour? And the root of the behaviour can be in emotions. It can also be in thoughts. So we need to have the full range to be able to liberate the transformation.
And as we've been talking throughout, really, emotions we know are a universal experience and that we all have them, even though many clients will describe in their coaching conversations with you that, I'm emotionally numb, or I'm emotionally inept, or, all sorts of different expressions I know my coaches have used over the years. And, some people experience emotional flooding, some people experience emotional stonewalling, and all the variations in between. But having emotions is a universal experience, and the way we experience our emotions is different for each and every one of us. What we know fundamentally is that they are a source of rich learning and growth for our coachees. And those stuck or flooded emotions are signals for learning and growth. Emotions aren't meant to get stuck, but they sometimes do. And we know that when that happens, that can be like a virus for the coachee, infiltrating their mind, and also can have those physical consequences, which are unwanted by the coachee. We know that from our understanding of the conscious and our unconscious mind, that our mind is connected to our body, and where we have unresolved emotion, it can show up in those physical forms. And the emotions that are stuck will often keep representing themselves for the coachee for resolution until the coachee is able to identify the learning and let go or process, move through the emotion that might be stuck. So as coaches, the more tools and techniques we can have to support our coachees to be able to do this, the more positive difference we can make in the world and for our coachees.
So how then do you apply what we've spoken about so far to coaching? So as coaches with a deeper understanding and confidence and capability in working with emotions, we can support our clients to redirect their attention to focus on what emotions they want and explore actions and habits that will enable them to achieve this. So often we do this purely with actions, but rarely do we think about supporting our clients to identify the emotions that they want to experience. We can help them to create new relationships with their emotions so that they can achieve their coaching goals and outcomes. So moving through some of that resistance. We can help our clients to release emotions that have got trapped by learning from past events and gaining new perspectives in order to move forward and achieve their goals. And we can also help them to identify their emotions, sort of widen their emotional range, because our emotions are unmet needs. So when they can do that, they're more in contact with their needs, so they can articulate them, get those needs met, and take action to move forward. So lots of positive and empowering ways that we would apply what we've spoken about so far to coaching.
And there's a few examples of that here. So where a coachee has identified an action but feels disconnected from it and is therefore lacking motivation, where you might have a coachee that focuses on the emotions of other people, whether that's family members or their team, or others, and they ignore their own emotional needs. And so there's a role for the coach to play there, where the coachee feels flooded by emotions and therefore finds it hard to actually get out of that and into action. Or sometimes the coachee might feel disempowered when it comes to their emotions, and so they'll use language like, this person made me feel, or what they did made me feel. So creating that dynamic where the coachee can't identify their emotions, and therefore might struggle to build relationships with others. I've had coachees in the past that have said, I don't know what it feels like to feel angry, for example. And where a coachee offers short answers and is guarded in their answers to your questions, these are all opportunities for us as coaches to work with and help our clients with their relationship with their emotions. And the reason we do that is to help the clients to build self-awareness, to release and move through the emotional blocks that they might be sat with, to help them to learn new strategies for managing unwanted or difficult emotions and welcoming in the emotions that they particularly enjoy, enabling them to embrace and connect to those chosen emotions, tapping into their courage, helping them to resolve inner conflict and find inner peace, because as Zoe mentioned much earlier on, often clients are experiencing an emotional conflict internally, and they might find it hard to identify what that is, or even that that's what's happening, and that can be a game changer for our clients. It helps them to become more emotionally agile and adaptable, embracing a growth mindset when it comes to their emotions. It can help them to find acceptance, resolution, forgiveness even, and ultimately to discover their needs and achieve more in the way that they want to.
It also fits within the, the main coaching bodies frames of competence. So with the ICF, the competencies that emotions coaching relates to is in the foundation, the co-creating of the relationship, communicating effectively and cultivating learning and growth. And with the MCC, you see it across a number of competencies as well, from self-awareness to managing the contract, building the relationship and enabling insight and learning. And recognizing that this is such a huge part of coaching competency, we have developed for the emotions coaching practitioner training our own competency framework for emotions coaching, so we can lean into this space, with more confidence and depth, with something to aspire to look where our areas of growth can be in this space.
So we're going to take you through, just at a very high level, the 6 core principles of emotions that form the backbone of the training that we'll be sharing with you and the resources in that training. So firstly, emotions are neither good nor bad. It's the way that we judge and perceive our emotions that influence how we feel about experiencing them. So if we experience anxiety as bad, then when we feel it, we might want to get rid of it. Where we shift our view or help our clients to shift their views and become more neutral in the way they experience emotions, it can enable them to welcome in a much fuller emotional experience within the life that they have. And all of these principles, they relate to one another. So whilst they can stand on their own, they also lead into each other.
So the second principle is you are not your emotions. So you might hear your clients say things like, oh, I am so stupid, or I'm so frustrated. And language is a really important part of this particular principle, because it's really important for us as coaches to hear that language and inquire around how that is playing out in the client's world. So for somebody that says, I am so angry, they're disempowering themselves by over-identifying with the emotion and kind of being the emotion, rather than recognizing that emotions are actually separate from them. So you can experience frustration without being frustration. And that space that we can create in between gives our clients a moment to pause and start to tap into rational thought rather than being in automatic behavior. So language is a big part of this particular principle.
And then we have this idea that emotions are unmet needs or signals to our unmet needs. And in this sense, we consider the link between emotions and values. So when you experience an emotion, it's often a signal that one of your needs or one of your values is unmet. So the example that we have mentioned here is that when we feel frustrated, so if we can tune into, I notice that I'm feeling frustrated, what is the need that I have that will enable this emotion to kind of pass through to flow on and for me to have the next kind of emotional experience. And it might be that what they need is clarity about a decision. And once they have that clarity about the decision, that frustration then will pass on, which is what they're seeking. So helping our clients to start to connect with and identify the need that the emotion is stimulating or highlighting in that moment is often a key to emotional freedom.
Another challenge, I think, for us as coaching is to know that emotions actually aren't always authentic. So we may see our clients experiencing an emotion or sharing an emotion, and perhaps they're coming in and they've had, I don't know, a falling out, say, with their line manager, and they're experiencing anger, or they're showing anger. But it may be that anger is actually a mask for sadness. You know, that they're feeling sad that they haven't been seen or respected in the way that they want. And the challenge with inauthentic emotions is that you might seek to have the surface emotion met. So if the client thinks that what they're experiencing is anger, then their solution to working through anger might be to vent about anger, for example. But if actually at the core of their unconscious, what they're experiencing is sadness, if they're using their strategy to get anger met, then the anger is not going to subside. So as coaches, in recognizing this principle, we can develop the skills to help our clients to understand and appreciate what their authentic emotions are, so that we can go back to principle 3, look to have their needs met so those emotions can subside.
And it's also where we explore the layering of emotions, the sequencing of emotions, and we can get into some really interesting things. So that flows into principle 5, which is the principle that emotions are interlinked. So we've talked throughout the session today about the link between our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviours. There's also links between our emotions in the past, the present, and the future. So, you know, our clients will have biases, you know, around these areas, but for us, helping our clients to recognize the connections that exist can help them to step into and make conscious change.
And the final principle that we've identified is that you can choose your emotions, and it will not feel like this to clients. So certainly don't go parading and telling clients that they can choose their emotions. But we know you cannot be made to feel. The emotional response that we have is as a result of our own values, our own beliefs, the experiences that we've had, the memories we have, the decision strategies we use. So the emotional responses that we have to our external events are as a result of how we process. And because of that, what it means that if we can change the way that we process it or the way that we experience it, we can change the response that we have. So the responses may still feel challenging, but what it enables us to do is, instead of seeing our emotions as outside of us, we learn to see them as within us, which puts us in a place of control and gives us more choice and responsibility about how we move forward. So this can be a really empowering place for clients to be able to step into, to recognize that they can be, if they choose to be, in control of their emotional responses.
So another question for you: where are you identifying opportunity for you to grow in your coaching skills related to working with emotions? So a lot of you mentioned earlier that you are doing some of this work. What's the opportunity for you for growth in this area? Would love to hear that from you. So if you can drop it into the chat, or feel free to take yourself off mute.
we actually, looking through the comments from before, there's already some stuff coming through around knowing that you can miss signals, so being able to go a bit deeper, over empathizing with clients' emotions. Yep, so learning how to take a step back, which I think is really common across coaches. Being more emotionally aware, being able to dig more into them, explore and work on emotions in myself first. Yeah, recognizing my own emotions and being open to having deeper conversations. Yeah.
Yes, there's a blend there, Zoe, isn't there, between, as we talked about earlier, the importance of doing deeper work with ourselves, whilst also, I think, having a safe container to be able to practice going deeper. So practicing, leaning in a bit more into this work.
Can I just add something from my perspective? I mean, I'm not coaching anyone in this sense yet. That's hence why I'm working with you lovely ladies. But yeah, for me, like working on myself, the self-awareness of the emotions is kind of where I've got to, and realizing actually I've been reacting to outside influences rather than actually I've got the choice to make the decision of how I react to this. And I think that self-awareness is the big part for me in knowing that those emotions are separate from me. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I think self-awareness and emotions are like two of the biggest things that I've discovered and I think that's what's led me into the coaching side even more so, really, to be honest.
Yeah.
Anyway, just an insight from my perspective.
Yeah, and that kind of encapsulates everything that we're talking about, and we can't wait to get started with you in September, Dan.
I'm looking forward to it. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, thank you. It will, and you'll be totally supported in the program.
Oh yeah, I have no doubt about that at all.
And I've seen lots of things in here where people are saying actually you'd like to have more tools. So let's take you through the Emotions Coaching Practitioner course so you can see what's involved in that.
So we built this program out of passion and out of our years of experience of coaching, because we want coaches to feel confident and empowered and, ready to help clients to, amongst all of the other coaching skills, also be able to learn from their emotions. So this for us is a program for people who are ready to take coaching to a whole new level and join us in becoming one of the world's first accredited emotions coaching practitioners. And the lens on this for us is about better results for our clients, bigger transformations for our clients, and for us engaging in bolder, braver coaching, which for independent coaches can mean more consistent clients, but also for those working internally in organizations can also start to deepen, the value of coaching within an organization and bring consistent clients through those internal programs as well.
So it's very much about helping you to elevate your credibility as a coach. So how do you stand out in the marketplace? What can you offer that other coaches can't? It's about developing your confidence and competence in those areas so that you can support your coaching clients with more complex emotional goals, ambitions, and desires, giving you that suite of tools and resources and that container to be able to support your clients to work with the emotions that are fundamental to them achieving their goals in the way that they want to, and also giving you that space to explore and develop and nurture your own relationship to your own emotions. And we're very conscious, as you know, from the summit this week, it's provided an opportunity for people in our Coaching Crowd Business Lounge, which is our membership to support coaches who want to grow and develop a successful and sustainable coaching business, to be able to do that. So whilst you'll be learning the skills, getting the tools, as well as some of the theory there, we're also going to be providing you with some tools to help you to grow that business. And that will be a diagnostic that you can share perhaps as a lead magnet or as part of your intake for clients. We'll be giving you some email templates and also a brochure, so giving you some collateral, so it'll save you some time and also help to help you to communicate with your clients about what you can offer.
And we'll take you through what's involved. So obviously the program is built off the 6 principles of emotion. For each of those principles, there's going to be at least 2 coaching tools and techniques. So you'll be introduced to the theory of what sits behind it, the way we apply it in practice, some new concepts that we'll introduce, and tools then that you can use to apply those with your clients. And it's supported with 4 days of interactive practical coaching training, where you'll have the opportunity to practice those coaching tools and techniques in a safe container, and so leaving the training feeling confident and well equipped to be able to use those approaches and techniques.
And I think it's important that we say it's an online program, because that picture suggests that it's in person. It is online, so it will all be facilitated through Zoom. But those 4 days are really focused on you having the opportunity to practice the tools and the techniques that you will be sharing with you in our online platform.
We've also built in content around the foundations of coaching. So we know that not all coaching trainings are built equally. So we want to be sure that everybody that's coming to the emotions coaching practitioner training has a firm understanding and grasp of the theory and concepts around values, beliefs, goals, and psychological development. So that for many of you, it'll be a refresher, and that's absolutely fine. But for those of you that are missing anything, you'll also come with a really strong foundation of what sits beneath this particular coaching. And building on that is around contracting and ethics. So whilst there's an expectation, because this is a training for qualified practicing coaches, you'll know about contracting and ethics. We're going to go deeper around contracting ethics in respect to working with emotions and making sure we talk about some of the ethical considerations. And again, building upon that, we're also going to look at trauma and attachment. And I can see from some of the comments, because when you start working with emotions, we do need to recognize that some will be trauma responses. And we need to be able to recognize when coaching is appropriate and not appropriate, and when other services may be involved, but also being able to make confident decisions as coaches around what we choose to work with and what we feel capable to work with and what we don't. So we're going to provide some education and theory around trauma and attachment, and also help you to form those confident decisions. Carry on, Jo.
And then to support you with that, after you've attended the 4 days of training, so you'll have the learning platform with all your lesson content. You'll then attend the 4 days doing a lot of practice and receiving feedback. As you integrate this work into your coaching practice, we will be providing you with 3 separate sessions of integration. You might call it supervision. We're seeing the purpose of it as helping you to integrate this into your coaching practice. And we mentioned the emotional archetypes diagnostic, and also the brochures and email templates that you will also receive.
Yeah, and so I was just saying, on the emotional archetypes, as well as you've got the 6 principles, the emotional archetypes probably core content as well, in terms of understanding the sort of different emotional personalities that we can develop and take on over time. And that helps us as coaches to identify those in our clients, but more so for our clients to be able to identify that in ourselves, and for us to be able to tailor our coaching experience to the emotional experience that typically we see in clients as well.
So people can book onto the training from today. There's a maximum of 40 places. The deadline for booking, if those 40 places don't go before, will be the 19th of September. And the reason for that is, you'll see here on this slide that we are drip feeding on a weekly basis the content, and the first piece will be released to you on the 26th of September on our learning platform. And each of the lessons, you'll see here principle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, they have the lessons. They also have recorded demos of the activities, so you can see them in action before you practice yourself. So you'll have everything that you need there. And then we finish with the pre-content on the 7th of November, where you'll have the self-care lesson, which we think is an important part of being able to sustain this level of coaching.
So I can see from the faces that joined us, there are already a number of people who've signed up here with us today. So I hope you're excited by what you've heard today so far. And for those of you who are interested, the investment is $1,650, which includes your VAT. You'll get access to all of those modules, including the rights to use the coaching activities and the resources. You'll get the integration support. You'll get the diagnostic for supporting your clients and their coaching, the 4 live days of training, and obviously 12 months access to all of what exists within the platform. And for those of you who want to spread your investment, you can do so over 4 installments. And I can see a question there from Carla around the formal assessment. So yes, there will be a formal assessment. So we've got ICF accreditation pending for this program for continued coach education certification. The formal assessment will be around a reflection. So there's 12 hours of coaching practice that we'll expect you to do as part of the coaching training, and we'll be looking for you to do a piece of reflection on that training, showing how you're integrating the core competencies of emotions coaching into your practice. There's also formal assessment at the end of each of those self-guided trainings. So you'll be working through the quiz and showing that you have a full understanding of the content that's involved there. And when you've attended all of the live training, all of the integration support, and you've completed everything within the portal, we'll be able to go in and kind of check completion. Then that's where you'll be issued with the Emotions Coaching Practitioner certification as well as the CCE. So whilst it's pending, there is expectation that will be secured by the time that everybody completes the program, and we've had meetings with the ICF to assure us of that.
I think we'll have that before the program starts. So that's good.
And for those of you who want to book, come on over to our website at www.igcompany.co.uk/emotions coaching, and we really look forward to welcoming you onto the program. So does anybody have any questions for us? We can't sign up for this one. Will you run it at the same time each year? Probably, but we're going to run this one, and then we'll assess kind of how we move forward. Ian signed up. Brilliant. When do the 4 days of live training come in? So Hayley, that is the 21st to 24th of November, 9:15 till 2:45. And we've already had people inquire to say, oh, they've got a day of training booked. So you will be able to complete the training if you can't attend, every single part of those 4 days, but you will have to do the coaching training for that particular coaching activity. You will need to practice that outside of the container and report back to us that you've been able to do that.
Are there any other questions that anybody's sat with? Well, I think really from us, we'd just like to say to you all, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope that you've enjoyed the session today, giving you that top level sort of insight into some of our thinking around this area and how we're looking to contribute to the profession in this way, which is a core passion and focus of the work that we do. And we're really excited to be able to run this programme with our very first cohort focused purely around emotions coaching. Zoe, Steph's asking, can you drop the YouTube link in so people can find the other sessions? And yes, anybody that wants to stay behind and ask us any quick questions, you are absolutely welcome to. Thank you all so much. And perhaps we'll see some of you in November. Have a great summer, everybody.